Don't look under the internet.
Well, then we're good to go, boys. Let's go. All right. Hi. Hey.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, hi. Welcome
Hi,
to welcome
Hi.
to Don't Look Under the Internet.
No.
It's a podcast, that's for sure. One of the millions that are out there. A
We're
very
one of 'em.
saturated market that we're like, we got it. We're gonna get in there. That's Jason.
I doubt it, but sure. Hello.
That's Doug.
Go giga gaga giga goo.
That's Matt.
I also doubt it.
And I'm me.
See? He gets
I
it.
also doubt it. I'm glad we're all on the same
Great.
page here.
What are we doubting?
Well-
Because the way Jason worded that was like, you were like, that's Jason. And Jason was like, I doubt it. He was like,
Doubt it. Don't even know what that name means. Who the fuck is Jason?
What does
well,
that even mean?
I have a little bit of housekeeping.
Clap above your head.
Just some fucking shit that I want to get out there and speak
He
into
has
the
some
world.
stuff he needs to get off his chest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's
we
a real
have quite
heavy
a few new members that I want to bring into the play here. First and foremost, over on our website, deludi.com, you can subscribe there. It's cool. You have non-Newtonian stupid. I like that. I like non-Newtonian stupid. That's a fun one.
I like that one a lot.
We have Young Matt or Da Sigma. Get the fuck out of here. I hate that already.
fuck you.
I actually want you to unsubscribe. Please leave.
Stop giving us money.
And over on our Patreon, patreon.com/deludipod, we have Ken Jumblemean. Ken Jumblemean.
Can Jum blow me?
What?
Ken Jublome.
Ken
Ken
Jabloni.
You got that.
Damn, I was waiting.
Yeah.
God.
Icy wiener.
I didn't get that until now.
Christ.
Ken Jublome. That's a good one. Thanks, Ken. I appreciate you can stay, but
Good
the other
job,
one has
Mo.
to go. That is all I have right now for some housekeeping, but I do want to shout out those names. Thank you guys for subscribing. That's really thoughtful. I was just kidding, Sigmas. Please stay. We
The
need your
Sigma
money.
sent us a bunch of emails if you guys haven't seen them.
Is that the
They
one with the
also sent
drawing?
us a donation and was like something about being 14-year-old me or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I saw
Hmm.
those.
I
Yeah.
didn't see those. But I saw
it.
the
see
art
it.
one.
We understand that.
To be a youth again.
I don't think Mike gets the donation
aspirations.
notifications.
I do
I don't
not
think
for
so
some reason.
either.
I get him.
I
But
don't
I'll-
think Mike is real.
I doubt it.
Have we
Kinda
thought
like-
about that?
Like
Me
girls
too.
and birds.
You know what else isn't real? Probably what we're talking about today.
All
Real
right,
or
that's
fake?
been Ludi.
I love how
No.
you used to like try and enshroud the whole thing in some mystery and like give some
Nah.
intrigue.
No,
Now just right off the rip, like this is probably fucking fake. Like
Nah,
this is
don't worry.
probably
I got-
not real.
Some
All right.
fake ass
I got opinions
bullshit
about
we're
this.
about to talk about. So
Oh, same.
I got a better one. Don't worry, I got a better one. Okay. So instead of a bird scooter to transition us into our topic,
Fuck.
I'm gonna teleport us over to our topic.
Oh, hey.
That's my teleport sound. Choo-choo-boom.
That's you. No.
Choo-choo-boom.
This is
Hey, oh, do you know what a fucking teleporter sounds like? Have you been through one like fucking Andy?
Yeah, have you been to
Oh,
your
no, I'm
2045 and seen the telephone booth that you get into?
Yeah.
I'm
Are you a fucking Doctor Who?
I am disagreeing with the whole bird
Don't-
scooter. There's no
don't
one
bring
part of
Doctor
it.
Who into this.
I don't
am
care.
picking out.
What we're talking about today is the little known story about a man named Andrew Basiago and his tales about time travel,
Bashago.
Bashago,
fuck.
whatever. Andrew Bashago and his tales of time travel and teleportation. We're talking about Project Pegasus, not to be confused with the Israeli spyware. because you will find a lot
yes.
of that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, because that's definitely an Israeli spyware op from like 2016. So I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
care. It
And
doesn't
That's
matter.
a thing they still use, and it's super expensive,
are-
and it's super fucking scary. But anyway,
Yeah,
that's a
What
different
are we going to be
episode.
referring to this as, Mike?
We should
What are-
cover the Israeli Project Pegasus at some
Project Pegasus. What are we? How are we going to refer to it tonight?
Project Pegger.
point. Yeah, Project
Beggars? You made me came in front of the boy.
Accidentally came in front of the boy, Pegger. Oh Lord,
God, I'm so happy they're bringing back King of the Hill.
I'm scared, man. I'm scared.
Peggers.
That's a whole diff. That's for a bonus, though. We don't need to get into that.
That's fair. So
We don't
We're
need
gonna-
to, but we will.
yeah, there's a lot to cover here. There's a lot of shit to this that we're gonna unpack. Now,
Oh,
full
yeah.
disclosure, because I know we're gonna get those comments like, actually, you're fucking wrong, and you fucking
You're right. We're wrong.
yeah. Here's how it goes. Here at Diluted, you
You're-
fucking figure it out.
You're wrong about this
TLDR,
thing that
more
is
so.
definitely real, Mike.
Yeah.
The details here are
Right.
super fucking important.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
We're
we
gonna
hear
get-
it all
we're
the
gonna get a
time.
cease and desist from Andrew Bashago.
We hear it all the time when we
hope
cover
so.
like alien shit. We'll cover things like that are similar to this. Like when
Yeah.
we covered
The conspiracy shit really brings some characters out of the YouTube algorithm woodwork.
yeah. And here's the thing, you people. We're going to be wrong on some things. We're going to skip over some stuff because we don't have all fucking day. If Andrew Bashiago goes on multiple 6-hour fucking interviews about this, you think we're going to be able to crank it out in like an hour? Probably not. So we're going to
I
skip
cranked
over
it out in
some
an hour
shit.
while I was watching those videos.
I'm so happy for you. Was it the
An
aliens?
hour? It's yeah, dude. Edging is a wonderful thing.
I knew
That's
it.
fair.
But just throwing that out there. Disclaimer. We're probably going to roll over some shit. Probably going to get some things inaccurate. But at the end of the day, who's to say what's real
I
or
don't
not?
think you should even put the effort into the disclaimer. If your life
I'm
is
giving
such
them
that
power.
you're getting super upset about this, that's more of a you problem than an
That's
us
fair.
problem.
Good a
This is your
hobby.
if this is your first episode, we're gonna treat this like every other episode and put one half ass into it.
Yeah, and here's this as well. If you get upset
A
about
whole
how we
half.
cover this, if you get
Maximum.
upset about how we talk about this, maybe you should go touch grass and then come back about it.
Mike's yelling at people who
Yeah,
haven't even
who don't
insulted
exist.
So
us.
let's get on to it.
This is the live podcast version of just like taking a shower and just getting like replaying conversations in your head, and you're
Getting
like,
mad.
man, I should have said that.
That
Winning
happens to me more
arguments
than
in the shower.
that happens more than it should to me. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Oh, I'm
Anyway,
pretty sure that's
so-
a standard part of everybody's day.
Well, let's get into it, boys. Let's talk because we got a lot to talk about. So,
Yes, we do.
what be Project Pegasus? You know, let's start there. Let's start at the beginning, like all beginnings begin. So, Project Pegasus, depending on your source, it can vary on when it started, but the usual go-to is anywhere between 1962 to 1972, were the prime times of a secret government program that was being ran by DARPA and the CIA. Now we're going to go into DARPA a little bit later, so just bear with us there. So, essentially what happened is when Nikola Tesla died in the 1940s in his apartment, a secret government, I guess you could call it a task force, kind of came in, stole a bunch of his research paper that had mentions to technologies and machines that could potentially help us figure out things like time travel and teleportation. The details between that are a little iffy to me. It all has to do with like electromagnetic like fields around us and around the earth. This one person that I watched describing the papers that Tesla like was writing on basically said that Tesla's theory was that everything on earth kind of works like a camera does. Where a camera, open up the lens, it takes a still image of what was in front of it. What they kind of used to simplify it was saying basically the earth is that camera and we are the subject that is taking a still image of. So everything on earth using its electromagnetic force basically gets like you could say like the quote unquote still image of itself imprinted onto the earth, which is like the camera taking the photo. It's a very weird way of putting it, and I still don't fully understand it, but I think to dumb it down as much as possible, that helps. Basically,
think
the
I'm following.
Earth is taking a record of everything that
Yeah.
happens on Earth using
It's imprinting it on-
electromagnetic fields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So things that happened in the past, we still have records of it and still have the ability to tap into those records because we still have the quote unquote photos from the camera.
It's kind of like when you delete a file off your like a computer. Like technically you can't access the file once you've deleted it unless you go through some stringent like recalling.
Yeah, actually, that does work too. Yeah, that works out really well. So in this task force, in this government program that was started because of Nikola Tesla's papers. It started off, like I said, in the 60s, and it started off originally with a group of 140 kids and 60 adults. Now, our boy here, Andrew Bashago,
Thank you.
he mentions that the American trials started with 140 kids. There were Latin American trials that started well before America got into it and started bringing children into play. These were pretty much the test subjects, unfortunately. I'm going to go into this a little bit in a smidge on why they were using kids for the test subjects, but I kind of want to go over the whole broad definition of what Project Pegasus is real quick first.
Wait, Mike, what are you about to get into?
You'll see. I'm not going to go there. Basically,
I saw the pause. You're like, how do I
basically
answer that?
this program with these 140 kids and these 60 adults is a secret government program between DARPA and the CIA to figure out and use time travel and teleportation for the advancement of the United States and potentially the world. So Andrew describes him going into this project when he was in third grade. I believe he said about like 7 years old, give or take. And when he was
Do you remember
in
that
the
waiver in third grade?
Oh yeah,
Signed off whether you wanted to or wanted to not be involved in government.
Yeah, it was in the fine print
keep
that
going.
they knew you wouldn't read, so they're okay with you
For
signing
public
it.
school. Now, if you were one of those rich assholes that went to third grade private school, then you know you were
That's
fine.
different. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Andrew
Did you drink the pink fluoride?
Andrew describes the machinery from Tesla's paperwork and the machinery that was built in these government facilities as basically like a Stargate. He says that it was basically the shape of like two mammoth tusks that are like touching at the points at the top. And he said that they were gunship gray. And my favorite part of his little detail with this is that the machine was just being powered by being plugged into the wall by just a regular old like power socket, which pisses me off.
It didn't even have a ground on it.
It didn't even have a ground on it. It was just like the two prong.
And here's immediately, I mean, we're going to go over real or fake later. Immediately fake to me, because how the fuck are you going to power a time machine through a wall socket? But my fucking, my fucking shit, just my power goes out if I plug in a space heater for too long. Tell me,
just
make it make sense.
That's just the control console.
Make it make sense.
That's because your shit's actually on circuits. Back in the day, they were just like, nah, fuck it. No grounding, no circuits. You plug that shit into the power and whatever happens is on you, fam.
That's
I
true.
dare you to touch this.
Back then, they were like, electricity's the Wild West. You plug it in, it's on you at that point. We don't fucking know what's going to happen.
Also, I did spend
Men in Black thing where the alien made like the deneuralizer in the basement.
Yeah.
And it's like all janky.
Yeah, it's just fucked.
Yeah.
But to be fair, so I thought about that point for a long time. And then it hit me. I was like, wait, I wonder if it's just like, that's just the control console that needs almost no power anyway.
That would make a little bit more sense, but then how are they powering the time machine?
That's probably built in. Why wouldn't you hardwire that?
Nuclear
it probably needs a lot of fucking
fission.
power.
It's a hamster on a wheel.
I don't want to
That's
throw
fair.
that through a fucking surge protector. Like what?
That's
See,
fair.
the original one was actually hamster powered, but they got enough hamsters to go into the future and get like super good batteries.
So all of our
now-
lithium batteries are because of the future.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's all you got to do to travel in time is the speed of hamster.
Hamster
makes
plus
way more
alternator
sense.
plus car battery. That's all you need.
Yeah, that makes way more sense. But real quick, what I want to bring up about the children and everything that they used, I want to bring this up real fast, and then we're going to go into a little bit more detail into like DARPA and things like that. But Andrew goes on to basically describe that, again, they used 140 children and 60 adults for this. Most of the experiments were done with children because children, they literally, he says at one point, basically it's because children could just fit through like the portals and adults couldn't. Like it's pretty much just that easy. Kids are just small and compact enough to fit through these fucking portals. The first
It's just
children,
convenient for us. Children.
yeah, pretty much. So the first round of children were from Latin America, like I mentioned. They use these children for testing the safety of teleportation. They're basically the guinea pigs, unfortunately. One of the instances that Andrew says that he was around for was they sent a kid back through a teleporter. They sent a kid back to a position where there's a water fountain, and the kid landed in the water fountain, and they something with the kid being in the water like affected the like gravitational field like around like the transporter or something. And so when the kid came back to his time, he came back before his feet did. So he didn't have feet, and they just flashed back into existence, and now he's just laying in this puddle, footless. This poor
Snap
fucking
back
child.
to reality. There goes my feet.
I think the quote from this guy was
Jimmy.
he only his legs were turned into stumps, I think was the quote from the fucking video.
Just straight up just cut off.
Also, wasn't part of why they used kids because like their brains were more malleable and resistant to just having a total breakdown at like the distortion of reality.
It was because it was a bunch of reasons. It was because kids see things in a different perspective than adults, and they hold on to like weird details better than an adult does. Like for an example,
I thought it was mostly just like if you show a kid some really weird shit, their brain doesn't immediately just go like, "Oh fuck."
Yeah, it's like that basically. But and it's also because kids will they'll see like things in a different perspective than an adult does. Like for an example, if you send like an adult back in time and they see like a cowboy wearing a weird like yellow vest and like a blue hat and like a banana in his holster, they're just gonna, the adult has already seen enough shit and they know that they're on like they know that they're on a mission to collect, XYZ data. So they're going to basically just be like, oh yeah, I ran into some weird cowboy who was dressed funny.
They have enough experience to have like preconceived like ideas of things.
Exactly. The adult's going to be like, that's just some weirdo. A kid's going to be like, oh, I saw a strange man wearing
like unfiltered.
Did you just describe Curious George's handler?
Maybe on accident.
And next to him was a guy wearing a white and red striped t-shirt and a beanie.
A kid is going to report back that weird detail, which doesn't seem like because kids they don't have a filter, so they're going to report that detail, and their handler is going to be like, oh, okay, that's good information to have just in case. Where an adult's just going to be like, yeah, he was dressed weird. Moving on.
Right.
So
that wasn't what I'm
that's one of the other reasons they use kids is the malleable brains, all that good stuff. And again, they can fit through the portal better. I'm going to go into some stuff later on. I'm sure Doug might too, with chronovisors and how the kids are important for that. But in the meantime, before we get there,
I won't.
Great. Let's talk about what DARPA has to do with this.
So DARPA is at the forefront of a lot of fucking conspiracy theories. Like half the crazy shit you're going to find on the internet, if you just type in conspiracy theories, it's probably going to have to do with DARPA. The DARPA is the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, and it actually used to just be called ARPA. But basically, they research developing cutting-edge technology for the military, which you can see why this kind of puts them at the forefront of a lot of conspiracy theories. It was formed by Eisenhower in the 50s to try to catch up with the Soviet space program, but it was eventually defunded in favor of NASA for that purpose, and then it got refunded to basically do what it does today, which is they provide funding and lead projects in collaboration with lots of researchers and universities around the country to build shit mostly for the military. Now, the most famous thing recently that they had been involved in, that if you put in DARPA and conspiracy theory into Google, you're going to see a lot of shit about HAARP, which is HAARP, the high frequency active Auroral Research Program. So this thing is basically just a bunch of fucking radio antennas that they stuck in Alaska, and it measures the ionosphere in the atmosphere, which is the section of the atmosphere where air is not thick enough to support flight, but it's too thin, or it's not thick enough to support flight, but it's too thick that you can't like stick satellites in it because there's too much drag. And this is like a super interesting area of the atmosphere because it's the first layer of the atmosphere that's thick enough to absorb UV rays, but there was not really a good way to measure it before they built this thing. So this thing basically shoots radio frequencies through this layer of the atmosphere and then measures what happens to the radio frequencies. And they basically do it to research the makeup and physical properties of that section of the atmosphere. But what conspiracy theorists say that it actually does is allow the government to control the weather, or also control like mind control and shit like that. We even had fucking Magic the Gathering in Congress fucking saying that they should use this thing to control the fucking weather.
I love Magic the Gathering.
Yeah. That. Like,
Yeah.
That's incredible.
It took me a second to piece that together.
She fucking believes that this
that's
thing is
amazing.
real, and or well, it is real,
Yeah.
but that she fucking believes that that's what this thing can do. But DARPA's also been accused of a bunch of other shit, like being somehow involved in pedophile rings. There's lots of shit about Obama. If you look up DARPA,
Yeah, there is.
I found a whole fucking.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into that later, but I found a whole fucking website called obamaconspiracy.org, which is just like some dude who's just cataloging every conspiracy theory that has something to do with Obama. And there's a section on DARPA specifically where you can get into learning about the Obots, which is apparently like these
Oh, Jesus.
mind-controlled people who are subservient to Obama. And I guess DARPA has something to do with these like Obot brainwashed Obama servants. It's
Obot.
fucking crazy. DARPA also helped fund research that led to Moderna's COVID vaccine, so you can see how they got wrapped up into some of that stuff too. Things that DARPA has actually done, though, include inventing
Making Obots.
inventing
Yeah.
the internet, which was originally called ARPANET. So
ARPANET.
yeah, the internet started as like a government-funded military.
The Xanadu
internet.
Hyperlink Project.
It wasn't Al Gore.
You
No,
know
it
what? The Gorebots and the Obots have actually been at war. Oh, we can't go into this right now.
This is a whole other thing.
They helped invent GPS. They invented what eventually became Google Street View, which was a project at MIT where researchers were tasked with building a system to help navigate urban environments. Weather satellites are thanks to DARPA. The Tor browser, like
Oh shit.
onion routing.
Onion browsers.
Yeah, onion
Yeah.
routing was something that DARPA helped invent. Callow, which was actually an early predecessor to Siri. So Siri was built off of this artificial intelligence project that called Callow that DARPA was involved with. Computer graphical user interfaces were part of like the very earliest graphical user interfaces were a part
They're
of the
the
DARPA
reason-
project.
You're the reason you can left click and right click.
Yeah. So
Wow.
all this is to say, it's actually really important that your tax dollars go to funding science and research because everybody ends up benefiting. Every single
Weird.
day, you end up
weird.
using these research projects that get funded
Crazy.
by these government agencies. But I don't know how that's relevant to anything that's going on in the world.
You know, the irony is
Definitely not
if
relevant at all.
the irony is if we give enough money to funding to DARPA for advancements in technology, eventually it is entirely possible they could figure out how to control the weather, and then we're full circle back to that problem.
You ever seen the movie Geostorm, Mike?
Global warming
Oh,
is
God, me
real,
too.
but it's actually this is a real conspiracy theory that global warming is real, but HARP
Oh,
is
yeah.
being used to make it
Yeah.
happen so that people can profit off of like all of the Go Green campaigns and shit like that.
Yeah.
It's insane. This shit's fucking crazy. If you just want to just a mind-numbing experience. Just like I said, just put DARPA and
Look up the heart
conspiracy into
machine.
Google or YouTube. There's no shortage of this crazy bullshit.
Nope.
Or the heart machine. The heart machine's conspiracies are
Yeah,
fucking batshit.
those just go on forever. It's literally
yeah.
just a bunch of fucking radio antennas. That's all it
Yeah.
is.
And that can
Some-
control the weather, Matt.
Some government agent is just like, yes, that's all it is. Yes.
Peddle my bullshit.
Yeah. The DARPA's also involved in annual robotics challenges, and currently they're working on a lot of projects involving AI and AI research. But
Great.
they do work on military shit, so a lot of their projects are basically just more effectively blowing people up.
Hell
Nice.
yeah.
Hell yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Sick.
Well, dang. I guess
Well,
now that we have that out of the way, yeah, I mentioned what
We've got the
Project
context
Pegasus
down.
is. Yeah, I've mentioned what Project Pegasus is, but we didn't really go too deep into who the main
Who
character is
Project
of
Pegasus
this.
is.
Who's Project Pegasus?
and let me tell you, Andrew Bashago, as you've heard us say, and can already probably guess by now, is kind of a fucking weird guy. But let me give you a little more background on him. So,
He's an
Andrew
upstanding
Bashago-
gentleman.
yeah, he's a lawyer, a writer, a public speaker, and he's best known for his claims of Project Pegasus.
Apparently a
supposed,
apparently a very good lawyer too. I think he's got like 5 different degrees, and he's got a pretty successful law firm. So good for
I
him.
didn't go into that. I should have looked up like what he's done, but I was focused on this aspect of it all. But he has, he claims that he's been involved with time travel. He claims that he's been on a mission to Mars. A lot of these allegations that he has have basically helped widespread conversations in the conspiracy and paranormal communities. So even though he may sound like a fucking wacko, he's done a lot of, I guess, advancement in those areas. I guess I don't know if that's the right way to describe that, but so basically he says that between 1968 and 1972 that he was part of a top secret DARPA program called Project Pegasus, which widely used teleportation, time travel, and interdimensional travel. So he claims that there was time travel via Tesla technology, which we kind of briefly touched on. Basically, so this came up through Nikola Tesla's research, and that people were being sent back and forward in time through what's called quantum access, which is above my pay grade to explain to you. He's also stated that he has personally visited the Ford Theater in 1865, and that's the night of the Lincoln assassination. And he's gone to it multiple times and had to remain undetected. But we'll go into that a little more later too. So another one of his claims is that they use something called the chronovisor, which was basically developed in part by the Vatican. And it was a machine essentially that displayed the image of a historical event and would allow an individual to enter them.
The amount of shit,
Assassin's Creed or whatever.
The amount of shit going on with the Vatican is insane. The Vatican has a locked up room that has a bunch of hidden technologies and artifacts that are not viewable from to the outside world. Very fascinating. I want to cover that as well. But
the chrono should at some point.
The chronovisor is one of them. They
though.
also apparently have like a bunch of they have like the Spear of Destiny down there. They have like some Da Vinci paintings and stuff that hold like secrets
But do they
to
have
life.
the pick of destiny down there? That's what I want to know.
You better fucking believe they do, bro. They have a bunch of hidden shit down there that we need to look at some point.
We'll Diluti will get to the bottom of it.
Oh yeah. Sure. The Vatican secrets will not remain secret. Just a real quick B&E. Diluti B&E. Ready, go.
All right, so more on Bashago, moving right along here. He also asserted that multiple future U.S. presidents, including Barack Obama, George Bush, Donald Trump, were pre-selected and told of their destinies in advance. Hello, Cat. He also claims that Obama was involved in Project Pegasus under the name of Barry Soetoro, which I believe Mike will
Yep, I'll get
Mike
to
will
that
go
later,
over a
probably.
bit more as well. And the other another thing is that he said he went to Mars. He states that between 1980 and 1984, he and others were teleported to Mars via a jump room. And basically, the purpose of this was to establish relationships with extraterrestrials living on Mars. And he basically has gone on record describing these encounters with Martians, claiming that they're both hostile and friendly. So that's interesting.
It's just like people.
Wow, there's a good one and there's a bad one. But not only did he do all this shit, the man is also sort of normal to a degree. He has some political ambitions, and in 2016, he ran for president of the United States as an independent candidate, stating that his goal was to expose the government, essentially, and disclose time travel to the people. And he's appeared in many interviews, conferences, whatever you have it. He has talked about this shit a lot.
Ad
A
nauseum.
lot. Ad
Um,
nauseum for sure.
So yeah, there's that. I wonder how many votes this man got, because I'm pretty sure in 2020 a guy ran under the name D's Nuts and got like 1 million votes. So I'm very curious how this guy.
You're not wrong.
But
I looked.
yeah,
I found all of like the. Well, I'll go over that
Do you
later.
think he
but I have,
beat
like,
Kanye
the
in
paperwork.
2016?
I hope.
he beat Coney for sure.
Oh yeah.
That was 4 years before that, Doug.
Yeah, that's right. 2012. I forgot. That's when
Yeah.
everything got wacky.
2012.
All right. So now that we know who he is a little bit, I'm gonna go over the first time that he supposedly jumped through time. So basically, he claimed the first time was in the late 1960s when he was about 6 or 7 years old, and under the supervision of his father, Raymond, who he says was a scientist.
Deborah, I'm time traveling.
His dad was a scientist and engineer working on classified projects for the U.S. government at the time, and their first jump was from New Jersey to New Mexico. Basically, they went to a DARPA facility in East Hanover, New Jersey, where these experiments were being done. And once he was there, I guess that was when he learned that it was part of Project Pegasus. And yeah, so again, kind of just some of the stuff I've already gone over, but basically the teleportation machine was a Tesla-based device consisting of two gray elliptical booms about 8 feet tall and 10 feet apart. These booms basically created a shimmering like energy field between them, what they would call a vortal tunnel or a quantum tunnel. And that was, they just walk through it like fucking Stargate style, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he mentions. I don't know if you
Ant-Man.
bring it up. He mentions that it is very reminiscent of the movie Sliders.
Oh, hell yeah.
And people misconstrue time travel as like how Star Trek does. He's like, that's inaccurate. It's more like Sliders. He gets very into that. He's like, it's like Sliders.
This man watched that movie and he's like, this is my life.
This is my life.
He
This
probably
is
just
what I'm
like
destined
dropped
to
acid
do.
and watched this movie, and this just set off a chain. of
I did
events.
this.
And then just picked up where the movie left off. It's just like, all right.
So Andrew Basiago says that his father instructed him to step forward into the energy field, and he claims that he did so. And then the air crackled, a blue and white light engulfed him before he lost his footing, and basically said it was like he was tumbling through space. So moments later, he landed in another government facility in Santa Fe, New Mexico, over 2,000 miles away. He described the sensation as like falling through a tunnel of light and energy, which is a terrible descriptor because who knows what that feels like other than no one.
Yeah,
So
like when you fall
Oh,
through
yeah.
a tunnel of light and energy.
I fucking
Right.
tripped earlier and
Yeah.
I was like, damn, this really is like falling through a tunnel of light and energy.
When you accidentally fall into the Large Hadron Collider,
I've
When you
been
get
on Space
domed by
Mountain
the
before.
Hadron Collider. Yeah, that's probably what it feels like. Getting
Space
gut checked
Mountain.
every 2 seconds. Okay, that was fun. Let's do it again. All right, so he was basically as soon as he got he arrived, he was quickly met with government officials who reassured him that he was okay and then led him
You're
to a
fine.
safe area. So why
remember?
You're fine. Just cracks him over the head.
Shake it off.
You're still in New Jersey, you little bitch. All right, so he says his father was not only aware of these experiments, but was directly involved with them, and he claims his father told him that these experiments were being conducted as part of national security interests, particularly for like Cold War intelligence gathering. And his father supposedly went through teleportation devices as well, meaning they both traveled separately to, but also like, so they both traveled to New Mexico together, basically, but in different instances. Yeah, after this first
I just
jump
watched
that he
your
did,
door
I
open
was,
by
about to- I
itself.
was trying not to say anything about
Like,
Yeah. Door just opened all by itself.
it's just my cat. Yeah, so basically, after this first jump, he claims that he underwent dozens of other jumps, including, again, trips to historical events. And he insists that the US government has been using this technology since the 60s and keeps it a secret to control energy and global travel. Because, why the fuck would we not want to just teleport our ass right to Japan?
the globalists.
well, one of the things that he
Those
mentions
damn
is
Democrats.
not to delve too deep into it because I don't know if any of you guys will either, but he contradicts himself a little bit because then he goes on to say later on that the reason he was chosen to be in the project was because handlers from the future went back in time that knew Bashago, went back in time to let the CIA know, like, hey, this kid is going to let the whole world know about our information and talk about how great we are and how great our teleportation is. And it's supposed to help actually get us to a future where teleportation is common, is like a common thing. And that's our main use of travel.
So they want him to be a whistleblower? I don't understand.
Correct. We'll get into it later. Yes, but yes, they do.
I don't even
Again,
want
it's
teleportation. I just want tubes. All right, I
Yeah,
want future on
Vacuum
the tube.
tubes. Yeah.
I'll just get sucked some. Well, you know what?
Just get sucked off.
Just get
Get
sucked
stuck wherever
everywhere.
you go.
yeah.
I'm in the future for the suicide booth.
Yeah. 100%. You
That's
are
not
not
my
bad.
money's
Thank
at.
you.
Quick and painless or slow and horrible?
Slow and horrible. Good choice.
Neat.
Well, Doug, is
Jason,
that all you have
go
about,
ahead.
is that all you
Yeah.
got about his experiences with his
I didn't have a
dad?
good bird scooter about suicide, so
That's fair. I don't think anybody does.
But Jason, if you have information on some of his jumps, you can. Right now would be the time.
You could kill yourself.
the time to do it. Or you could go back in time. So now I want you guys to think that you are presented with the opportunity to go back in time wherever you want to go. What would you pick?
I think I'm good.
Everybody's
we're-
like, I'm gonna kill Hitler.
Maybe the 90s. Maybe I'll go back to like,
maybe like last year. Like that's
oh, maybe you know what?
I
Maybe
ate a
I'd go,
really good
I'd go back.
sandwich once.
2021
to the
before I
90s.
agreed to be on this podcast.
I would go back to the 90s so I can experience like Jurassic Park and things in the theaters for the first time.
in the theaters.
That must have been a riot.
Well, a
Yeah,
lot
I'm
of
sure
people
that was
might think
sick.
of historical events like the Revolutionary War, the crucifixion of Jesus.
I would-
Gettysburg Address.
I would go
Things
back
like
and
that.
stalk Mary 100%. I want to see how that shit went down.
Yeah, I want to see Mary
Be like-
getting railed and be like, "That's what happened."
You liar!
Random.
Just bust into the room.
You don't understand? No, God did it. No.
That bald guy's like, I'm God.
I am God. they call me
She
God.
said she
of
wouldn't make
Nazareth.
me pay because I'm I'm God.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, that's what happened.
or just like interject, find a moment where she's like, it's just a little lie. What's the worst that could happen? And be
What's
like,
the worst that could happen?
let me
No, the
let me
whole
tell
world.
you.
One of every holy war that's ever happened.
The world is based off your fucking lie.
It's one lie.
Well,
What can
thank you.
happen? It's one line. What could happen? Kick in the door, be like, they hit the Pentagon. They hit the fucking Pentagon.
Just show her the Pope.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Look
buddy, there
what
isn't a
you've
third
done.
tower.
No, so if people could go back, a lot of people might answer that they would go back to some kind of event that has some historical significance to it.
September 11.
That honestly, I could see that as being high up on the list. So Bashago says that he has experienced 8 separate time travel technologies throughout the course of the project. However, a lot of the instances involved a teleporter based on like technical paperwork. Again, this is going back to all the stuff that was found in Nikolai Tesla's New York City apartment after he died in 1943.
Nikolai.
Nikolai.
It's Nikolai.
Nikolai. Bashago also says that he time traveled 6 times to the Ford Theater on the day of the Lincoln assassination, but he did not see it happen. And apparently, he also saw President Lincoln on other occasions as well, especially another famous one that we'll get to. And this is a direct quote. He says, "I did not, however, witness the assassination. Once, I was on the theater level when he was shot, and I heard the shot followed by a great commotion that arose from the crowd. It was terrible to hear." Bashago also claims that he was in the same place at the same time twice, but from 2 different times in the present, meaning he saw himself coming back in time to the same point in time.
Wave.
And this also occurred at the Ford Theater in 1865, apparently. And he goes on to kind of elaborate, saying, "After the first of these 2 encounters with myself occurred, I was concerned that my cover might be blown." Okay, first off, what cover? What is your
Baby
cover here?
spy.
He said, "Unlike the jump to Gettysburg, in which I was
Does he know
clutching a
Baby Cop?
letter
Oh my God.
baby legs." Unlike the jump to Gettysburg, in which I was clutching a letter to Navy Secretary Gideon Welles to offer me aid and assistance in the event I was arrested, I didn't have any explanatory materials when I was sent to Ford's Theater. He goes on to say, in fact, during one probe, the one to Gettysburg, the Gettysburg Address,
Can
I
I
was dressed as
apologies?
a Union bugle boy.
Can I interject a smidge and add something about the Ford Theater that you
Yeah, go ahead,
described?
please.
So
Please.
during the Ford Theater jump, that is when one of the main points that the Project Pegasus, the higher ups, used as an example of when you go back in time, it's not you going back to going back to the past. It's a multiverse type of situation. This is one of the core examples they use as an example of that, because he went back multiple times. And every time he went back, he noticed subtle changes. He does mention that one time he tried to go up to the theater where Lincoln was. He got stopped by a security guard and kicked out. He mentions that he went back again, and when he tried to go up again, there was no security guard, but there was a lock on the door, so he could not get to Lincoln. So with these small, subtle changes, that's when they're like, so you're not going back to the past like Samurai Jack. You're going to a different multiverse. And they use that as an example for.
So what you're saying is it's probably impossible to go back in time and have a photographic picture of yourself back in the same timeline appear in the present, right? That's what you're saying?
Oh, boy, wouldn't that be crazy if that happened?
Like, if it's a multiverse, you're going to a different universe, which means you wouldn't actually affect your current timeline. Which means if you had a picture of yourself from 1865 at the Gettysburg Address dressed as a bugle boy, that wouldn't make much sense, now would it, Mike?
Unless somebody from another timeline showed up in our timeline.
That's fair enough.
Infinite timelines mean infinite Andrew Bashagos.
Yeah.
Going back.
Oh, God. Okay, that's the first rule of time travel.
There's always an Andrew Bashago.
Always a Bashago.
What about the whole paradox thing? Like 2 of you in the same space time? Like
the whole paradox of 2 in the pink, 1 in the Lincoln.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
That's
But
what they-
that
that's
would have been
I have heard that
before
before.
our Andrew Bashago was born, though. So would it have mattered?
Right.
He
I don't
does. He
know.
does also, if it helps, it's not going to help. But he does make mention that they told him
No,
Don't-
this never makes sense. Don't
it's
worry
not
about
gonna.
it.
Yeah. When he gets sent back, they tell him like you're going to probably see other versions of you. Don't think too much on it. Just continue on with your mission.
Just
Don't
keep
worry
doing
about
what
it.
you're doing.
Yeah.
Don't worry,
Yeah.
your brain is gonna melt, but like you're fine.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be fine. So to kind of elaborate more on the Gettysburg Address conundrum that I am talking about, there's an image that exists of a smaller boy with some. Actually, if you look at it, I will admit, like the shoes he's wearing look a little off for the
They're
time
big.
period.
They're just big shoes.
They're big. I mean, everybody else has just really really basic shoes on
Kid
their
was
feet. That
poor, he's just wearing his dad's shoes.
So it's
he's
not
wearing,
even
like,
that. Do you go into
he's
why?
wearing the new Hoka Bondi 8s. What's up?
Do you go into why he's got those big shoes?
No, I have no idea.
So according to you finish your sentence. Your sentence on it first, and I'll talk about it.
Okay. So this is a direct quote from Andrew Bashago. He goes, I had been dressed in period clothing as a Union Bugle boy. I attracted so much attention at the Lincoln speech site at Gettysburg, wearing oversized men's street shoes, that I left the area around the dais and I walked around 100 paces over to where I was photographed in the Josephine Cog image of Lincoln at Gettysburg. And one of the things you can see is, like, if you look at the photos, the shoes are a little weird, yeah, but like, I could say that that's me, and you'd be like,
Right. It's just a boy with
sure.
a bowl cut. That
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
be
Like,
literally anyone.
It's not even that.
Anybody.
It's not even that the shoes are like that weird. So he describes it as before he goes back. They basically have like a costume department that dresses him in like period pieces. That way he can go back and blend in. When they dressed him to go back, they gave him that bugle outfit, but they didn't have a proper pair of shoes. They didn't have any that fit him. So the only thing that they had were there's some Crocs. So
It's just
the
those
only thing they
jelly
had-
shoes from the 90s, like the sandals.
Yes.
The only thing that they had were still period accurate shoes, but they were like streetwear. They weren't formal shoes like what everyone else at Gettysburg was wearing. And they were adult size as well. I think he said they're like a size 10 or some shit like that. But that's what was going on is basically the costume department just didn't have the right equipment for him. So they sent him back in whatever the fuck they had that would still look the time frame.
They should have sent
So
back
now-
3 kids in a trench coat is what they should have done.
Yeah. Would have got the same effect, I think.
Just 3 Bashagos.
Yeah.
There you go.
He does absolutely double down. He says, I was physically at the Gettysburg Address, and he reiterates that this is photographic evidence, that this is photographic evidence of time travel, more or less. And this is kind of what he bases most of his arguments on.
Mm.
I mean, it's interesting because like we've talked about photographs of past events, and like there's a picture of somebody with like a cell phone or something like that. You know what I mean? Like we've seen these stories before. We've seen these images before. So like it's not too far out of the realm of possibility that this is another one of those similar images, whether that's actual photographic evidence of time travel or not. That's a whole
Up in
other
the air.
question. Yeah, 100%. There's this, in my mind, this proves fucking nothing.
Yeah. Also, keep going. I have to pee.
Okay. He then goes on and he
Man
says,
Man has to piss like right before his part.
Oh, I know. It's fine. I'm about to do the same thing. So he also goes on. So again, there's a 6 fucking hour interview with this guy, not a lecture, where he is presenting PowerPoint slides and talking about all of his different time travel experiences. And he reiterates that each of his visits in the past was a little different, as if I was being sent to different alternate realities located on adjacent timelines. As these visits accumulated, I bumped into myself twice on two different visits. One day, young Andrew Bashago witnessed a time travel failure that happened to another boy. The child's legs were a few seconds late from the time the main body moved, and this is something that I think Doug, you brought this up. And apparently they appeared like they should have been, but they were not connected. And it said he lay and writhed in pain, and he had stumps for legs. And that's the quote about that.
Old Stumpy Joe.
For some reason, I'm
Yeah.
imagining this is like an American Dad scene where
Yeah, right.
where he's like inside like the secret area where they're like working
Yeah.
on secret shit, and they just like teleport a kid through.
Oh, absolutely. Like half a kid,
Yeah.
and then half a second later, his legs show up. Like, yeah,
I like how they just
100%.
said, oh yeah, his legs were late. Like they didn't
They were
even
late.
like. They were like, yeah, we know what happened. It's just
They were just a few seconds
legs
late.
were, not quite.
Somebody
there.
put in the tracking number. Yeah, delayed.
Oh shit!
very-
Yeah, bad weather in the Midwest.
The last thing I want to talk about is for his trips to the past is probably one of the most significant things that he talks about, and that is how he viewed the crucifixion of Jesus. Now, out of like the 6-hour interview or lecture that he does, it's only like a 5-minute portion of the video. And Matt, I linked that to you. If you wouldn't mind, actually, would you mind playing that from the? If you click the link, it'll take you to the timestamp. It's about like 35 seconds.
They had also captured images of the crucifixion of Jesus of Nazareth. Now I know he was telling the truth because I saw a 20 to 30 minute 16 millimeter film of the crucifixion of Jesus that was being played, that was being displayed at the Sandia National Labs in Sandia, New Mexico in the summer of 1972. Now, when we left that viewing, my dad was with his longtime friend Connie Chavez, a woman that at one point that he wanted to marry, and she was just in distress watching the crucifixion of Jesus as it really happened. Jesus was an historical personage. He was crucified, and everybody in that room knew it because it wasn't a dramatized rendering of the crucifixion. It was horrendously awful to watch in light of Jesus' suffering. And we could tell based on our understanding of the 3 New Testament accounts of the crucifixion of Jesus of Nazareth that it was a real event and not just some purported event. I mean, you have David Icke claiming that the Bible was scripted by the Piso family of Rome. You have people now in Eastern religions who have come out and tried to show that Jesus is just a recapitulation of a previous deity.
So, Ed, like as you can see, he talks about how there's a window device, almost like, and if anybody's seen Fringe, this is going to remind you of part of that show. There's a window that lets you see into not only an alternate reality, it lets you see into the past. And apparently it was him, and it was with some other lady and a couple other people, and they literally witnessed. Now, he says he's 100% certain it was the crucifixion of Jesus. And then by the end of it, he's saying, well, there were about 600 crucifixions of Caucasian males around that time period. So I guess it could have been any one of those people. But it was definitely the crucifixion of Jesus.
Definitely God.
Definitely
that I saw.
100%. And so he then bases a bunch of wild claims about like the history of the world on the fact that because I know that the crucifixion was real, I know that the Bible's real and all of this shit is real.
Because he saw a Middle Eastern man with a beard on a cross and was
Right,
like, that must
because
be.
you saw a very common technique of heretical like execution on just full display.
Right.
That means you verify the entirety of
Or maybe
the
he
Holy Trinity.
maybe he spoke to
like-
someone and asked them about it in English, which I'm sure they were like, "Oh yeah,
Yeah.
this Jesus guy,
Who's
right?"
that?
Yeah.
Who's that? Hello, American.
Hello, fellow Americans.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the basis for all of these fucking claims are bananas, and like the amount of logical, just like leaps of faith you have to take are insane. But here he is telling us about how this window works. He goes over a bunch of different other types of technology that lets you like slightly experience the past versus just looking at it, or like view it from somebody else's eyes. Like he goes over all these different things. It's really cool.
Mm.
It's also batshit insane. Like it's fucking wild.
This guy's a
It's
lawyer.
Yes, he's a lawyer.
Who do you think
It
his
sure
clients
is.
are?
Evangelicals, I hope.
The fucking Glorp-blebians from
The
The
Neptune.
Serpoians. Yeah. But that is he has several other stories about his jumps into the past. But from what I read, those were some of the most interesting. And like I said, if you have a chance to watch at least some of the 6-hour interview, that 5-minute clip where he talks about like the crucifixion of Jesus. I know we only showed a little bit of it, but like if you can watch the whole 5 minutes of it, it's wild.
He's got
it was
one-
a great piece of media.
Did you mention when he went back to like a million BC? Well,
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, he like briefly touched on that. Doesn't he contradict himself like 3 times
so
in the course of talking about it?
he pick a time and he'll do that. Unfortunately,
Right.
But
Wouldn't he be
so-
sucking down like extremely oxygen-rich air?
Here's the
and
thing,
probably like.
I'm gonna stop you right there, because he didn't go back like that. So
Oh, okay.
he used a chronovisor to go back to the year 1 million BC, and he mentioned that it was a more red, and like heated version of Earth. He mentioned seeing 2 dinosaurs on this path. But he mentions using the chronovisor, which, like Jason was saying, is one of the pieces of technology that they use to go back. Basically, what the chronovisor lets them do is it allows them to kind of go back virtually. It's like it's basically just like a VR headset, but he attempts to explain it. It still makes no sense to me, but it kind of allows you to go back and experience this world. But he mentions that when you use the chronovisor, and it's kind of just like specific to the kids, like the kids, one of the reasons that they chose children for this again is because the kids
better with
using
tech.
the chronovisor. Yes. The kids using the chronovisors, they can experience the chronovisor reality more than an adult can. An adult can basically just view it like you are using like VR goggles. A kid can actually go into that world more in depth. So he mentions that when he's using this chronovisor to go back to the year 1 million BC, he is there and he's experienced the world. He's able to walk around. He said that he went miles without running into a wall because the concept of a wall did not apply to him in this virtual world that he was experiencing. So that is what they use for these kids to go back and experience these worlds as well. When they cannot go back physically, they use a chronovisor that lets them go back virtually and still experience everything and bring back and collect data. They can't interact with the world. There's not going to be a photo of him like at Gettysburg, but he's able to still go and view everything that's going on and gather data and technologies from the past.
Also, you don't even know if it's your past. It could be an adjacent universe's past.
You know?
Like, man, I hate when that happens.
That one I enjoyed because he's like, I went to million BC, saw 2 dinosaurs. and I want someone to try to fact check. In 1 million BC, were there actually dinosaurs, or is that still the time of the big bugs or whatever?
That's actually a really good question.
You know, I want to know what was actually alive in that time. So
bug.
I didn't
big
care enough to
bug.
do any research.
Mesozoic
I'll
era
Google
would span from approximately 252 million to 66 million years ago.
So
Is that 1 million
not
BC?
not far enough?
So
back.
not far enough back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 66
You're a
million.
fucking liar, Bushaga! Bushaga, you're a fucking liar!
Oh, that sounds
Christ.
great. Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I love that.
I can't think anymore. Holy fuck.
Yep. But Jason, you mentioned that he didn't really jump around too much more in his the past there or whatever, correct?
He seemed to visit like similar eras and time periods, and it's almost like whatever program he was a part of, like when he was a part of DARPA, whatever criteria, whatever syllabus they had printed out for his time travel adventures, it was like recurring events to almost. I know. I couldn't think of anything else. I feel like they wanted to test the same times several times in a row, and as like, yes, science minded, that makes 100% sense. Make sure you get it, but it wasn't like it was like 7 events from at least what we talked about.
I want to read a small snippet, and this is from greatdreams.com/darpa-pegasus.htm, which is a fantastic reference for everything on this. It has everything you could possibly ever need. And I'm going to read a small snippet from that goes into some of the things you were talking about too, Jason. So, appearing during all 4 hours of one of his shows, Bashago discusses experiments with the secret DARPA program Project Pegasus and what he claimed to be a true history of U.S. time travel research and teleportation technology. As a kid, his father volunteered him to be inducted into the experimental program as a guinea pig from the years 1969 and 1972. He described being teleported from locations in Woodbridge, New Jersey to Santa Fe, New Mexico via a device derived from Tesla technology. A cavern opens up, and that is what he used for time travel. During this time frame, he said he witnessed an accident where a boy's feet were sheared off after he was teleported. We mentioned that. He also talked about teleportation technology could be used for time travel and development of chronovisors, which allowed holographic recordings to be made of historically significant events such as the crucifixion of Jesus and the signing of the U.S. Constitution. In one chronovisor recording of the future he was able to witness in 1971, he described seeing U.S. Supreme Court building under 100 feet of brickish water in the year 2013, suggesting that the entire eastern seaboard will be flooded. Time travel technology enabled the U.S. to win the Cold War as the government teleported military secrets to the future to store for safekeeping. And the technology also helped with future presidential elections. Just wanted to add that in there.
Wow. Great.
Good use of our
Good.
time.
So these recordings, I assume that means when you're using the chronovisor, are you recording while you're using it, or you're viewing the recordings?
You're recording it for other people to view.
So we have these recordings somewhere still? Are these just like chilling in the Library of Congress? Or?
That's
somewhere.
Andrew. That's what his whole goal. His whole goal is to release these recordings and documents to the public.
Oh,
that's what
I cannot wait to go over his political ambitions in 2016.
Yeah.
But that's
anyway
later.
So I mentioned there at the end, presidents. Jason, were you done with your little snippet?
I'm good. I'm gonna go take a giant piss. You guys have fun.
Bitchin'. So,
Rock a huge piss.
like I mentioned before, this technology was used to assist presidents in future elections. So there's a couple that he mentions meeting. He mentions meeting two of the Bushes. He mentions meeting Clinton and our Lord and Savior Barack Obama. Obama's the big one here. So in the 80s, Andrew, he goes by Andy. I'm just gonna throw that out there. So I'm gonna call him Andy. He mentions
like you guys
that
are on
in
pretty good terms.
we're best buddies.
Pretty close. You guys.
Honestly, yes, we are.
All right, cool.
Andy
So-
and Barry.
Two time travelers going to the past. So he mentions that while he was in college, he met up with a protester who was from, I believe he said he was from like South Africa or something, and he was talking to this protester about some of the time traveling the adventures that he's going on. The protester was like, "Holy shit, that's awesome! I know a guy that you should talk to about this stuff." And so he went back to the protester's house, and wouldn't you know it, it was motherfucking Barack Obama was there. And he went on to discuss further with Obama these adventures in time travel. And basically Obama was like, yep, I'm doing that too.
Yep.
But perfect. So he kind of contradicts himself a little bit here, because he mentions that this is the first time he met Obama, but then he goes on to claim that Obama was in one of his Mars training classes at California's College of Siskiyous, I think it's called, in 1980. So this was part of a group of 10 young adults chosen to travel to Mars via a jump room, which jump room is basically, it's what it sounds like. There's multiple across all of the United States, so they can go to one wherever, wherever is most convenient to them. And it's just a teleportation room. But he claims that is a waypoint, yeah. He mentions that the then 19-year-old Barack Obama went by the nickname Barry Sotero, which Doug mentioned before. He says that he encountered. He says that they encountered the future. He encountered the future president at the U.S. bases on Mars, which he is said to have visited twice between the years 1981 and 1983. On one instance, Bashago says that he even exchanged words with Obama himself while en route to one of the jump rooms on Mars. Guess what these words are that stuck with Bashago to this day?
Who's up?
Don't go into the Twin Towers on 9/11.
No,
not
he
a good
said
idea.
that. He said that en route to one of the jump rooms, once they arrived, Obama said, "We're here."
We're here.
That's it.
We're
That's it. So he goes on at one point as well. Hang on, I got to go through my notes here because Jesus Christ, I have them all fucking for the place.
We've
So
been
he
trying
goes
to tell
on
you
at
that,
one
Mike.
point. What'd you say?
We've been trying to tell you that, Mike.
Tell me what?
About your
That my notes suck. Yeah, I know my notes aren't the best.
Your notes.
I try to
they're,
I try to help. I try.
I do have this link here.
Past essentially plants that effect in the past and causes that effect to become the catalyst for the cause of the effect that you brought back in time. So just to spin this analogy one more time, if after identifying future U.S. presidents, the CIA has been approaching them and apprising them of their destinies as president, and training them, and even putting the teams in place to get them elected after they have trained them, and even manipulating the electoral process like they did in 2000 when they made George W. Bush president, even though he hadn't won the election. By taking data from the future like that and using it in the present to create the future, you are creating the very effects that you've monitored or detected from the future in a way that works with them in the present to create the very future that you've sensed. And there's a syllogistic or solipsistic dimension to that. That is one of the reasons why, for example, my father was always instructing Connie not to share with me any of the things he had told her about me. Because you don't want to alter the present by giving somebody prior knowledge of a future event or contingency unless you're damn sure they need to know it. And that the benefits outweigh the risks of that. But I think that if we look at the history of the last 40 years of U.S. presidential politics, if we consider the fact that I met George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush at the La Hacienda restaurant in Albuquerque when I was on Pegasus and they were being run through to be told what their destinies were, and that George W. Bush, his 25-year-old son, was all over those tables at that restaurant where the project people were dining, joking repeatedly, "My daddy and I are going to be president," as he was, in his silly way. If we then factor in the fact that I heard Bill Clinton spoken of as a future U.S. president.
Just like a little 2-minute snippet. Basically, it's him saying that he went to this one dinner that the CIA basically put together. And it was him, a couple other time travelers, and a couple of the future presidents as well. He mentions that George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush were both there. It was at this point that H.W. Bush and W. were told that they were going to be president at one point, and that they were basically going to start being groomed to become the president. So during this dinner, he says that Bush was a very charismatic and energetic man. And he goes on to say how Bush would keep going to everyone at the dinner party saying, did you hear that me and my dad are going to be president of the United States? I can't do a good George. It went more Clinton than anything, I think.
That was not that bad.
Yeah, but he basically went table to table saying, "Hey, I'm going to be president of the United States." And he kept making the joke that him and his dad were going to be presidents, like co-presidents together, because he heard that they were both going to be president. So he made the joke that they were going to run together and
Like
do everything
co-managers.
together. Yeah, they're going to be co-managers.
Yeah.
But it's at this dinner that the Bushes found out they were going to be presidents and they were being groomed to become presidents. Obama was also told that he was going to become president and groomed to be that as well. During
on
his
Mars,
time,
or was that before that?
it was during his time. It was during his Mars
Mars stint.
fun times.
So Andy claims that he just went back in time and Barry just happened to be there. But was it Barry from our universe or Barry from
So
another
this is where it gets a little
universe,
confusing
or?
because again, he claims that he went there and he just so happened Barry was in his. I like we're calling Barry like we're friends.
Yeah.
Obama was just kind of in his class essentially. So he says it was just kind of a coincidence, and that's when he found out.
But the protest incident,
Yeah.
where he
Exactly,
went
that's
back
what I'm saying.
and Obama just happened to be there.
Yeah, it's kind of contradicting because you have that where it's like Obama just happened to be there to talk to the guy, and that
Almost
he
like somebody has forgotten the
He-
things they
The intricate
Yeah.
web of lies that they've constructed.
he also mentions that is also when Obama was kind of told that he was going to become president because he mentions that a CIA guy came up to that house and was like, we've already talked to Obama about his future in government, and he saw Obama give like a confirming nod about it.
Yep.
So it kind of contradicts
Lizard
itself a little
eyes.
bit. Yeah, it kind of contradicts itself a little bit. But he has had this knowledge of future presidents, of presidents in the future, and that information has been given to them in the past, so they could be groomed to become the presidents. A little confusing, but that's just how it be.
No.
Nah, makes perfect sense.
But that information had to have come from the future. And Bashago has made claims of jumping to the future as well. So
Yeah.
He has. He's been all over the place.
Yeah, in particular, so if you look him up and look up his time travel exploits, most of what he talks about is from the past because it's easier to come up
It's
with
verifiable.
fake evidence about things that have already happened. Yeah. But he does recount in several different interviews that I was able to find a particular incident where he traveled to the year 2045. And apparently this is how he knows that just general teleportation exists at some point, at least by the year 2045, because he claims that he was in 2045 and was shown just walking into an elevator-like device. When the door opens, you're in a different building or a different part of the city. So that level of teleportation will be fully operational within the US by 2045. So imagine how calm life is going to be. I often urge people to study Buddhism because the future is going to be a lot calmer because of the introduction of these technologies. You're not going to be racing around to make your connections, for example. He also claims that during his visit to 2045, he was given a miniature canister of microfilm to be brought back to the 1970s, which contained a wealth of knowledge of every historical event up until that point.
Microfilm, huh?
Yeah,
It's still using
in
that
the 2040 in 2045. Yeah, they were.
Well,
Like, this is
that-
the best medium we
We've
can
got-
give you this.
well, that makes sense to me
We've got
because
quantum
he was.
digital compression. We've got fucking fiber optic connections.
Well, that
but no,
that
microfilm.
actually makes sense for them to use microfilm because he had to bring that information back to the 70s.
Yeah, they had to be. Able
They're,
to
they're
pull
not
it.
going to give him a fucking SD card. They're not going to know.
Hey,
what the
where do
fuck
I
to do
plug
with
this
that.
in?
Yeah.
My question is like, did they
There will
just
be a
have
day
that
where you know
ready?
how to do this.
There's- They're like, here, we just had this lying around from,
Well,
They could have given him a
times when
VLC
we
player.
didn't
though.
need it.
The people that he went to,
VLC.
the people that he went to were basically part of the program in the future. So they knew that they were expecting
They
some
knew,
traveler.
okay.
Yeah, they're expecting
You
a
know-
traveler to come.
This guy he has got, I don't know why he's not a fucking science fiction writer. He'd be incredible. Like amazing. Like Dune level of amazing.
I don't know. I feel almost like if you had this all written out in one like piece of media, it would become quickly very apparent how little
Yeah.
any of it makes sense when put together.
But I guess again, this is going back to the 6-hour fucking video, his lecture. It's the things that the thing that I took away from that was he is either really, really like perfected the art of coming up with bullshit on the spot that like is coherent with each other, or he's memorized a lot of information. You know what I mean?
Who knows?
Like
Well, that's the thing. The man is a lawyer
Yeah.
and
Right.
a public speaker. So
So
he
it's
has
probably
literally
memorization.
trained his whole life to be able to hold an argument for something that he may or may not believe in.
yeah,
However,
that's fair.
I think he has become so ingrained in this that in the
You
off
think he
chance
believes
that it's
it?
fucking real. Yeah, I think he believes
point,
what he's saying.
He has to at this point, right? Like
He's probably said it many times.
Many
and
times.
When
That's
when
what
you-
it sounded like to me.
he said it many times. The guy, when you listen to him talk, he's very well spoken. He's good with words, clearly, and it's very believable. Like when you're listening to him talk about this shit, you're like, yeah, you did do
He-
that, huh?
kind of to harken back to the future thing as well. Did Matt? Did you find anything about the weird like
Emerald and Tungsten City.
Yeah, that and the weird like nature, like how like we coexist with nature in this
No,
future. that
I
he saw.
didn't. The nature thing, I didn't. The building
That's
that he
fair.
was given the microfilm in, though, yeah, was made of like emerald and tungsten, which
Okay, my first question
our
was
building
like, how
materials.
the fuck did,
Our building materials
How
are
the
going to have to
fuck?
drastically change within the next 20 years. If that's
but
gonna be the
also
case.
you were able to just identify that on site, huh? Like
Yeah,
you could just look
tungsten,
at it and be
just-
like, that is emerald and tungsten specifically.
Isn't tungsten like
tangy.
incredibly heavy material too?
Yes. Oh yeah.
I don't know.
It's one thing that was tossed around between a lot of world powers when they were deciding if satellite/space based weaponry would be good because tungsten is very dense, and if you drop something from that height, you could level a lot of things. And they adapted that in what
rods.
movie was that?
The rods
Yeah,
from
what was-
God or whatever it's called. That's the
Well, yeah,
weapon.
what movie was that from?
I don't fucking know. Geostorm. I
it was-
don't know.
I think it was actually X-Men Apocalypse.
Sure. So
But-
he mentions going to a future, and he's gone to a couple different futures, and he doesn't touch on many of them, but one of them he does mention is that in one of the futures he goes to humans and like nature kind of like coexist better than we do now. He mentioned that a lot of the buildings in the city that he went to were a mix of nature and like human construction. So it's kind of like in my brain, I imagine like, you know, in movies where it's like the apocalypse, like 40 years later, and like trees and vines start growing through buildings
Yeah.
again. That's what I kind of
Yeah,
imagine.
like being reclaimed by nature.
Yeah, that's what I kind of imagine. That's what he kind of
Yeah.
infers, is that we have this like this mesh of both worlds now. And he also goes on to say as
So
well,
we
with
fucked up, is what you're saying.
probably he goes on to say as well with that microfilm thing, that he brought that microfilm back and the people were like, great, we're going to document it, but we can't do too much with this because that future that you came from very well might be a multiverse and might not be our future. So we're going to document everything that they said, but we can't do anything about it because we're not even sure if it's actually going to happen or not.
So how did
So he
that
just went
information
to
get
future.
lost? So if he went to
Yeah.
2045
Right.
and contacted people that
Mhm.
were aware of this entire program, if in the 70s they were aware that the time travel was not to the same timeline, how did that information get lost from the
How?
70s to the 2045? Because wouldn't
Yeah.
the people in 2045 have been like, there's no point in giving him this?
Well, you have to remember, sometimes he found himself in the past.
What do you want
So
from me, man?
apparently sometimes they can overlap.
I think the big
Listen to this,
is
but it's
that-
hard to do that. The moment he brought up the multiverse, I'm like, you kind of contradicted your entire thing here.
Yes.
But the thing-
Yes.
guys, you
The
have
photograph.
to
The photograph from Gettysburg.
the
How do you
biggest
have
thing
that?
to take away is that this is all for sure real.
Yeah.
We
Just
just
let
don't
it happen.
understand it. That's all.
But
it
we're
is.
just trying to make
Just-
we need to know how it works though, Doug. I need to know how it works.
I need to
Yeah,
know about this
the
guy.
whole multiverse thing kind of makes all of
What
this
happened?
just completely worthless. Like,
Dude, the amount of emphasis he puts on the photo in that giant lecture he does, he keeps coming back to it. That's like his gospel point. Like that's where he derives all of his belief, is off the photograph that he has of himself from 1865 at the Gettysburg Address. If multiverse theory is a thing like he says it is,
and
that
it's another him or something.
that should never, like, you shouldn't remember the details of that. You know what I mean? Because if you remember the details of that, that means you are going back to your past. You are not going back to a multiverse past.
Oh, something funny. FYI, I just Googled. The earliest species of Homo genus appeared around 2 million to 1.5 million BC. So him going
Not
back to the year 1
22
million, him going back to the year 1 million BC means he was more likely to come across people than
Just
dinosaurs.
like early people. Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Isn't it like pretty widespread too, like amongst the like people who do study like time travel, that like going back in time is pretty much off the table as far as that's concerned?
Go-
Like
yeah.
almost
I think
theoretically.
the
like,
theory is that going back and also interacting, like if you were able to move fast enough, you could look backwards in a certain way to where you'd be able to watch history unfold before your eyes. You just wouldn't be able to do anything about it. You know what I mean?
Here's the thing too that I just thought about, and I'm sure in like time travel circles or whatever the fuck communities exist around this has been discussed before. But you know how with the multiverse, there's like that concept that in every single thing that possibly could happen, there's a multiverse where there's like a universe where that happened.
Yeah.
So now let's imagine that we created the technology to teleport ourselves into another multiverse, correct? So then, so that means that in our universe, let's say I go back to 1945. In our universe, I teleported to 1945, and so now in that multiverse, or in that universe, there's a me from this universe that appears in 1945. But think about it. That means that if it's possible to invent the technology to jump universes, that means that there is a universe out and infinite possibilities happen. That means that there's a universe out there where I travel back in time to this moment and punch myself in the face.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not happening. That's not happening.
Think really hard about
so
it.
it's
Intentionality, man. That's all you need is intentionality.
Rocco's back.
Also, Mike, I am so excited for you to go off on your rant about this because I know you're about to.
I have a bunch of shit ready for the end of this that I'm just gonna.
Oh, you're gonna unload. I know.
Yeah.
No, I know. Well,
like,
I mean,
like the fact that the fact that people aren't just like constantly appearing and disappearing from our reality kind of like disproves the entire idea that it's possible to jump
the multiverse theory. And especially if you can jump universes, right? So multiverse theory basically says whenever a decision is made, the opposite side of that decision is also made in another universe, right?
Right, I guess. But like,
would that mean that in a certain universe that multiverse theory isn't real?
I've been over this before. I made this. This is the conundrum I made before.
Right.
If there's
said this to me before, and like it's blown my mind.
The problem with multiverse theory is there's infinite possibilities, meaning there is a universe where we have proven without a doubt that multiverse theory cannot exist, and there's another universe where we've proven without a doubt that multiverse can exist.
I don't think that argument works though, because in the idea with there being infinite possibilities is like it's infinite possibilities that still abide by the laws of the physical laws of the universe. And if one of the multiverse, and if one of the physical laws of the multiverse is that travel between multiverses is real, then that's just a fact. That's a ground like property of the multiverse. You can't change that.
But wouldn't I don't know. I don't know. I don't fucking know.
That's like there can be no universe in the multiverse where 2 + 2 = 4 or equals 5. It's a law. It's a physical law. You can't change that.
I think there's a lot that we don't understand about all of that, and I think that's so. Mike, when you first brought that point up to me about like if infinite possibilities exist and infinite time is given for those infinite possibilities to happen, then that means that there is a possibility that multiverse doesn't exist. Like, yes, that's a self-defeating thing.
It's a paradox.
However, Matt, now that you say like it has to abide by the laws of physics, like yes, that
there are rules of the multiverse. Like there have to be,
right?
That there are physical properties of.
We still have
everything.
Shit to talk about Andy Bashag.
We do.
I guess. But
we're going off on tangents. We never do this.
Wrap us up here, Jason. You got to talk about this man's fucking
his
presidential
fucking political career.
Hell yeah, brother.
At this rate, I just don't even care.
Oh man,
I didn't before we started, to be honest.
This is. I promise, I will keep this short and sweet because it is guaranteed short and sweet. Matt, if you want to throw up on our little screen,
I would love to throw up on the screen.
And Andy2016.com. That's it. Just Andy2016.com.
Fun friends in love. Personals. Join now.
So this is when you get here, you're going to see just in big black letters and a white background, it says home. and it just launches right into what this site's about. It says Andrew D. Bashago is a prominent figure in the Truth Movement. Now, the Truth Movement is pretty much everything that we've been talking about up until now. It's the fact that time travel exists, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. For more than 10 years, he has shared with the American people the true facts of our great nation's accomplishments in time travel and Mars visitation. And honestly, that's the first paragraph. The second one talks a little bit about some metaphoric usage of creative descriptions of the Truth Movement without telling you anything about the Truth Movement whatsoever. It does tell you, though, that today, Andrew D. Bashago is running for the President of the United States. Now, one of the things that he found out in his time travel adventures is that he was going to be president somewhere between the years of 2016 and 2028.
Still has a chance, baby.
Yeah, he does. He's got one more chance. But in 2016, he set up this site, and I found all of the paperwork, like the bureaucratic paper trail that was left by him signing up to become a presidential candidate for the state of Florida. I have the responses, so like it was a real thing. I don't remember any of that, like at all. But he was a viable candidate for the 2016 election, which
You remember all
but
this
he
shit
does have
about
one
cam
more.
girls, gay chat, and adult cams? 'Cause it seems to be what is mostly on this website. Mormon boys. Hell yeah.
Mormon boy.
Oh yeah, the majority of it is ad space for pornographic websites. Very niche pornographic websites.
Go to Deludi.com. You might see similar.
You might see porn. But yeah, so like he had intended to become a much bigger political figure than he actually is, because I guarantee, like before I looked into any of this, I had no idea that this guy was actually into politics.
I have something to add when you're done.
He has vowed
Of course you
that
do.
if elected president, he will lead the American people into a bold new era of truth, reform, and innovation as great as they are great. Join us in supporting Andy in his quest to establish a presidency as honest, just, and ingenious as the American people. I swear to God,
It's important to
will
note
ma-
that truth, reform, and innovation are capitalized,
all
as
of them,
well as
TRI.
New Agenda and New America.
There's a lot
Are
of
these
capitalization
brands?
here.
Registered.
You'd think so.
Truth TM.
So
I guess that's probably actually
that sounds
a trademark.
great, but it says nothing. Nothing. All it says is that he's going to tell you about time travel. That's the only promise here. So his political campaign / career, it started and ended pretty fucking quickly.
You say that. But here's the thing. Here's the fucking thing. So
Oh, didn't he go to Connecticut for a little bit too?
for what?
He
Vacation.
ran for like vacation. No, he ran for like political office there as well.
Maybe. I don't remember that. Either
Congressional?
way.
I don't remember.
So here's the thing with the presidential thing, and you're missing out on the most important piece, Jason. Most important piece is that he has said that he was going to be president in 2028. He was told back in the past two different things. He was told, one, he was going to become the president. He was also told by another CIA operative, he was told, you will not become the president, but you are going to be
Vice
an
president.
important. You're going to be an important figure in
That's right.
in future government. And he's like, what does that mean? They're like, more than likely some form of vice president. So he's got two options, either president or vice president. Now here's the thing. He said that he becomes president in 2028. And people are like, well, why did you run in 2016 then? It's to put his name on the fucking map. He had to get his name out there for some reason. Now his name's out there. People are talking about him. We're fucking talking about him.
Is it
And here's the
right
thing.
But hasn't
Yes,
he
and here's the
himself
thing.
already established that it doesn't matter what they told him in the past, since that wasn't our
Shut up.
reality?
No, this is real.
Can we go
Multiverse
back
theory.
to that? Can we go back to
No, this is real.
Multiverse.
Shut up. This is real. He's gonna be our president. And you know what? Here's the funny thing. I legitimately think he's got a relative, and relative is doing a lot of heavy lifting here.
Nothing surprises
Relative
me at this point. So
A relative
fair.
good chance of winning, because here's the thing. One, our political climate right now is in the fucking tank
I was
right
going to
now.
say, it wouldn't
It's
be the
garbage.
stupidest thing that's happened. So.
It's full of conspiracy theorists and shit already. So here's the thing. We already have conspiracy theorists in government. We have fucking Congress
MTG
members. We have
fucking
Senate
talking
members.
about-
We have
Jewish
people.
space lasers.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, I
So
forgot about Jewish
I'm
space
sorry.
lasers.
for him
Trump's
to
already helping
become
us travel back in time, so We're getting there.
Yeah. So
Hey!
he,
Make
So
our universe
for
great
him-
again.
for him to become president is not that out of line, and here's why. So you have a political climate full of brain dead conspiracy theorists, and on the other side you have people who are trying to keep like the general rule of law going and keep with the status quo. It's not working. So what best to bring these people together than a conspiracy theorist who also has a law degree? You have the best of both fucking worlds. You have a guy who believes, yeah, time travel's real, and also HARP probably is real too. All this weird shit, but also I got
a
a law.
Machiavellian grifter is the best. hope
Also,
for-
though,
for-
I
is
got
that
a
what
fucking
you're
law
saying?
degree, so I know what I'm talking about. He is an intellectual, but he's also kind of cuckoo. He is the perfect candidate right now to combine both parties to get into one united front and get us back on some sort of normality path. He is
Go,
a modern day
go,
centrist,
go.
and that's why I think he has got a good chance. He's a good candidate to bring everyone together. Now, I got some shit that I got to talk to you boys about. Okay, I got a lot left that I need
We're
to
at
talk
an
about.
hour 30, Mike.
We're at hour 30, so I'm gonna kind of speed run through a lot of this shit real quick. Now
I'm
I'm
just
gonna go
drink while you do that.
go for it. I'm
We're
gonna go
take
back
a-
and forth.
We're gonna take 10, and it's just gonna be Mike by himself.
Yeah.
Go for it. So I'm gonna go through a bunch of shit that I left out throughout this entire thing. So it's gonna be a kind of sporadic, but it's information that I feel is very needed. So first and foremost, DARPA had, as he explains, 5 reasons for involving American school children in such new, dangerous, and experimental activities. First, the Department of Defense wanted to test the mental and physical effects of teleportation on children. Second, Project Pegasus needed to use children because the holograms created by the chronovisors would collapse when adults stood inside of them. Third, the children were tabula rasa and would tend to see things during the time probes that adults would tend to miss. Fourth, the children were trainees who, upon growing up, would serve in a covert time-space program under DARPA that would operate in tandem with the overt space program under NASA. Lastly, the program sponsors found that after moving between timelines, adult time travelers were often becoming insane, and it was hoped that by working with gifted and talented children from childhood, the U.S. government might create an adult cadre, an adult group of chrononauts capable of dealing with psychological effects of time travel. In one time probe in the future undertaken by Project Pegasus from a chronovisor device located at ITT Defense Communications in Nutley, New Jersey, Mr. Bashago viewed the U.S. Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C. as it was in the year 2013. During this probe, he found the Supreme Court underwater. I went over this already, and that's when they decided that they found it underwater, and he reported this to the lieutenant commander from the Office of Naval Intelligence, who debriefed him after the probe to the future after all that was completed. He hastens to add that because of the chronovisors didn't identify absolute deterministic futures, but rather alternate futures in the multiverse. This catastrophic vision of Washington, D.C. might be one from an alternate timeline and does not materialize on our own timeline. In contrast to the coronavirus probes in which a form of virtual time travel was achieved, the teleporters developed by Project Pegasus allowed for physical teleportation to distant locations, sometimes with an adjustment forward or backwards in time of days, weeks, months, or years. According to Bashiago, in 1972, the U.S. government was using quantum displacement of this kind to send both people forward in time several years to store sensitive military secrets in the future, and backwards in time several years to provide the government with current intelligence about future events. Now, something else that I want to bring up. So he mentions at one point in an interview with Coast to Coast, he mentions that he talks to a lot of fans and that they all believe in what he's talking about. He talks with one fan who he actually fucking worked with, which is wild to me. I'm going to get into some more information on that. Where is it? I had it fucking stored around here somewhere.
Oh, what's his name? Fuck.
Hang on. Give me 1 second. So he's got some information here. And so he mentions working with a man named Brett Stillings. Stillings knew that
Yes.
everything that he was talking about was true. And this is why. This is a quote from his Coast to Coast interview. He knew I was telling the truth when I appeared on your show because as a non-physicist, I described the fact that the crystal array inside the chronovisors was generating the hologram of past and future events was made of bismuth. And Brett described how bismuth has special properties at an atomic number of 83. It has a complete proton shell, hence would facilitate the lensing effect involving bringing past and future events into the time laboratory that I described. He also stated that that's kind of 83 is kind of a magic number because when you begin to add 32 to 83 encode them, you reach elements that have unusual properties. So if you add 32 to 83, you get element 115, which is what Robert Lazar talked about back in 1989 with George Knapp.
Lazar?
And yes, he talked about this in 1989 with George Knapp, and they agreed during this this interview. They agreed during this interview.
You're really here
that,
for this.
They agreed during this interview that they affirmed
Mark,
that the statements by Robert Lazar about the
okay.
unusual properties of element 115 is correct. And
Dude,
it's
is
right
all-
there.
Hold on.
Everything is right there in the trans quantum series of elements.
This is all
Now-
back to Project Serpo.
Now here's the thing.
This is the same fucking dude.
For those of you that don't know much about Robert Lazar, let me tell you a little thing about him.
What the fuck is happening, Mike?
Robert Lazar is an American conspiracy theorist. In 1989, Lazar claimed to have been a part of a classified U.S. government project concerned with the reverse engineering of extraterrestrial technology. He basically says that he worked on Area 51 and he discovered an element called element 115. Now, this is taken from an article that I found online. Basically, what this is atomic numbers 113, 115, 117, 118 were all basically announced in the International Union of Pure Applied Chemistry. They announced that the addition of these 4 elements into the periodic table. One of them, and this is during like 2012. This is relatively recent. One of them, though, that atomic number 115 was already announced in 1989 with Robert Lazar, who again was famous Area 51 whistleblower. He revealed to the public that the UFOs possessed by the U.S. government were powered by mysterious element 115. And at that time, the claims made by Lazar were tagged as absurd at the scientific community, and they had no knowledge of an element 115. Until 2003, that's when they discovered these different elements. It wasn't until 2012 that a lot of this other shit was posted about it. But in 2003, his statements gained more credibility when a group of Russian scientists managed to create the elusive element. And now we are able to tweak it a little bit. We found out that it is a real element, something that we can create. The only downside is that the element that we created is different from the element that he talked about. Mostly because the element that we have is a radioactive element that decays in less than a second, and it's basically useless. It can't be utilized for anything, especially not a fuel source. So they were able to confirm that this bismuth that they used a same type of quality that this element 115 did. They just used it in a different way to be able to project the past and the present through these chronovisors. Now, here's another little bit I want to bring up. This is from Andrew Bashago himself to a Facebook group called Project Pegasus, the time travel group of Andrew D. Bashago.
So
I have an important discovery to share. Win Keach has uncovered.
Mike's gonna figure it out for you.
Win Keach has
yell it at
uncovered
you.
facts proving my claim that the node of the coronavirus
20
developed by
minutes.
DARPA's Project Pegasus was
And
an
it's just
8-sided bismuth
keep
crystal
going.
that my father, Raymond F. Bashago, was responsible for development, by which chronovision was made possible, and that there was a link between the chronovisor and physicist Dr. Enrico Fermi. I knew of my father's 1962 U.S. patent related to the Hall effect, but not a citation in a 1967 U.S. patent related to 8-sided bismuth crystals, which I've stated in all of my public lectures about the advent of time travel was a component in the chronovisors that propagated the space-time hologram that allowed non-local events to be lensed into the laboratory. As explained by me and by my father in 1970 when I began visiting past events via the chronovisor at Morristown, New Jersey, the truth marches on, and as God is my witness, the future shall absolve me.
Oi.
Yeah, what do you guys think?
That was a lot. That was a lot, my guy. That was a lot. Like,
I don't understand what any of that had to do with anything. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring it up because it helped with it
Irrelevant.
helped describe how the chronovisors worked.
Oh, great.
Maybe
this is
bring that-
Mike basically just gave us the deep sixth intel about how these time travel VR pros work, and this is what nobody wants us to hear.
Bismuth.
But also, I still don't understand how they work.
I don't think Mike
Bismuth.
understands how they work.
It's
Cool.
using
What about
bismuth,
it?
which has a proton shell.
Where you
because of
lost
its
me
atomic
was
number.
where they were like, oh, this is 83, but this is 32, so let's fucking add them together and you get 115. I fucking hate when conspiracy theories start doing that type of shit. See, if you add these two numbers together, they make another fucking number.
This
How
is
about
how we
that?
get the fucking giant ice ball bullshit where, oh, there's flat Earth, but some people think it's round. Let's just put thousands of flat
It's
Earths
just people
on
that
a ball.
People that are
I'm
so
a hot
stupid
dog
that when
Earth
they
believer.
accidentally figure out how to do math, they think it has some sort of significance.
Here's another little tidbit, just something silly that I want to bring up, just to cap end it. Something
Cheers,
that I
everybody.
think, no, just something silly that
I'm not
again
even
cap end it.
drinking.
So, so Andy mentioned before that he was chosen among other gifted and bright school children, for his talents and his intellect and things like that. What's funny enough, and I think we mentioned this before, he goes on to say that he was actually chosen because the CIA from the future, like our time, I heard the duck, but I'm gonna keep going. He was the CIA from like our time had intel that he was going to tell the story of Project Pegasus. So they already knew that Andrew Bashago was going to reveal to the world about Project Pegasus and all of its technological advancements, and they wanted to make sure that that happens. So they sent back information to the past to Andy's dad to tell his dad, your son is going to be in this project because he already is basically a whistleblower in the future, and we like that shit. So, thought that was interesting.
But again, that would have no effect on the current timeline. So what's the fucking point?
Correct.
Yep. Let's play the fun
It's
game.
great it's great that we're figuring out things that work in other timelines except for ours.
Yeah,
Let's
all
cap
this
this off.
seems like
Really
a completely
fucking relevant.
moot point.
Wait, hold on.
Cool.
I would like to add something interesting. you want to
Yogurt tastes
add
like
real quick.
Coca-Cola in the other timeline.
Let's cap this off with a final real or fake. Boys, I'm going to pass this to each of you, and you tell me if you think it's real or fake. Matt, what do you think?
I think the headache I have now is very real.
So you think it's real? Awesome. That's good to know. Jason, what do you think?
I think he has convinced himself this is real. And what is reality if not what you perceive it to be?
That's fair enough, I guess.
Doug, what do you think?
Fake.
As fuck.
I am still an open-minded skeptic on this
You
one.
can't be serious.
And here's why. He has the
Bro,
funniest.
just stop.
He's got the funniest.
brother.
He's got the opportunity to do the funniest thing. And if he becomes elected president,
He does.
2028,
okay,
I
I'll
am
admit
going
it.
to
I'll admit it.
laugh.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
keeping an open mind until 2028 because if he
I'll,
doesn't become president,
I'll donate
that's hilarious.
$1,000 to his campaign if he gets elected. Well, I guess he would already get elected. So
Louis
what's
for
the point?
Andrew
But
Bashago.
If
Yeah.
he runs, I'll vote for him.
if he becomes a major party candidate, I will donate $1,000 to his campaign.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm
Louis
holding
will-
out
will
all.
donate.
I'm holding out an open mind until 2028, and if he gets elected, that is going to be the best fucking shit.
He doesn't
So
know
it'd
it
be
yet,
like,
but
hey,
we're
hey.
his social manager. We're in control of all of his public imagery.
Yep. Well, with all that being
'Cause
said,
nobody fucking else is.
with all that being said, I'm going to cap this off by just saying I've said capped off too many times. I'm going to end this by
You
just saying,
have.
Patreon.com/DelutyPod.
Capping off is usually when you end it. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Patreon.com/DelutyPod. Go fuck yourself, Doug, for interrupting me. Deluty.com. Go become a member of those things. Follow us on any social media. We're fucking everywhere. It's either DelutyPod or Don't Look Under the Internet. And go do that. Send us an email at delutypod@gmail.com. Go kiss a guy on the street because he might be a time traveler, so he can go back in time and tell you that you're gonna kiss a guy in the future.
He can tell people in the future how people in the past kiss.
Exactly, especially in the multiverse. Matt, what do you got to say for the people?
If you've made it this far,
So
I just want you to say that in the comments on Spotify or the comments on YouTube. Say that.
I
Just-
made it this far.
Yeah, just
made
say
it this
I made it this far. I just want to say. I just want to see how many people did it
Well, no.
and who you are.
That
Yeah, say
Hashtag
I
I
made it
survived
this
Mike.
far, and just leave a little blurb about yourself. Something about who you are.
yeah.
They're
We'll
not
read
magic
'em.
rocks, people in the Discord. It's bismuth, you fuckwads. It's got chemical atomic number stuff.
It's the same
It's got
shit, magic.
It's got a proton shell.
Oh my god.
You've got a proton shell.
Most
idiot.
things
got
do,
'em.
Mike.
Jason, what you got?
Fucking be paranoid. If you see a child pop up in your timeline that isn't supposed to be there, just fucking kill him.
Whoa.
Like, that's just an easy way to fix
Oh wait,
all
no,
this.
that tracks. We don't condone children, so
No, especially ones that don't fucking belong here. That's all I got.
Can you top that, Doug?
man,
Awesome. All right, everyone. That's
that's it. That's nope.
That's it.
That's
Yep.
it.
Well,
We're done here.
goodbye, everybody. I
About,
love you. Thank you for listening to me talk about a lunatic for fucking almost 2 hours.
We love these episodes. You Unhinged is one of the best things that ever has
These are
happened
my
to this
favorite. These
podcast.
are my favorite episodes. I love these weird
Yeah.
conspiracy ones so fucking much.
Same.
Bye,
All right,
everybody.
we love you guys. Thank you for sticking around. Please don't hate us.
Don't look under the internet.